Hey everybody, it's ShadowStar here, and it's time for another review of the Pokemon anime. Now we're finally moving on to the Battle Frontier arc, one of my absolute favorite parts of the anime. I have huge nostalgia for this part, and honestly, it's not just nostalgia holding it up, as you'll see. First thing to note is Battle Frontier takes place only within just over a season. Because of that, there's a lot put into this season, and yet only one season to do it, which means there is almost no filler at all. It's very rare you see filler, and when you do, you're probably only waiting maybe 1 or 2 episodes before an actual episode starts. There's so much in this episode. There's so much in this season. And honestly, this is a lot of the characters at their best. As always, Ash is still more confident as from last time. He's just come off the Hoenn League, and unlike before, he really does get a lot of respect in this season, both from his companions and people he meets. It's so good to see Ash finally getting respect, because quite frankly, he deserves it. People seem to sweep his achievements under the rug, but, you know, in my view, getting that far in the league is still a big deal for a lot of people. People act like, oh, you didn't beat the league, that's not a big deal. No, he did make it very far in multiple leagues. And honestly, his Pokemon are so well trained at this point. First off, I have to mention one of the biggest parts of Pikachu this season. Pikachu learns Volt Tackle. One of my favorite moves to watch Pikachu do. It's just so satisfying. It's so well executed. There's something so thrilling about whenever he pulls off a Volt Tackle. You know, Iron Tail's fun, and Thunderbolt's good for long distance, but Volt Tackle, it just works up to it, it's so fun. He didn't catch or evolve many new Pokemon, but one thing he did do is he brought back his Phanpy. In Johto, I said Phanpy didn't get much time to shine outside the Pokemon League. Well, good news, Phanpy follows him to the Battle Frontier. This does mean that Phanpy eventually evolves into Donphan and has a few good battles here and there. Sceptile, his Grovyle eventually does evolve into a Sceptile, and it gets a bit of a mini arc. It falls in love in one episode and for some reason forgets how to do attacks. Luckily, this only lasts for a couple of episodes before Sceptile's back to normal and Sceptile's back to being his fighting strength. And then he actually does catch one single Pokemon in the Battle Frontier, an Aipom. The thing is, though, it starts as an Aipom that just snatches his hat and chases him around for a couple episodes before he finally catches it in the middle of the Grand Festival. Now, the thing is, this Aipom doesn't do much in Battle Frontier because it's caught so late. Obviously, he's not going to use it against the Battle Pyramid. Obviously, this Aipom, along with a few other Pokemon in the season, are more build-up to Sinnoh. And that's one thing I'll keep saying is this season has a lot of really well-crafted build-up to Sinnoh. Aipom's one of them. He doesn't do much here, but as you'll see at the end, he follows him along, so we'll be having Aipom in Sinnoh. But what about the Battle Frontier itself? As I said last time, Ash was introduced to the Battle Frontier by Scott. And the good thing is, I kind of like having Scott as a character, because every time there's a Battle Frontier episode, Scott shows up, so it's essentially a recurring cast member that you get to see every time Ash is somewhere. It's nice to have a bit more of a recurring cast. You know, you don't need to have his traveling characters be a huge pack, but if you have recurring cast, it makes it more enjoyable. So, you know, Ash gets to battle Agatha, and Scott recognizes that, so he gets to join the Battle Frontier. Starting with the Battle Factory, we prove this is no ordinary battle. He battles an Articuno, and unlike in Hoenn, he's not afraid to bring back his old Pokemon, because the first thing we have is his Charizard versus Articuno. One of the battles many people regard as an iconic Charizard battle, and you can definitely see why. I mean, Charizard versus an Articuno, sure, it's got an advantage, but it's still a legendary. So yeah, that sets a precedent of how big these Battle Frontiers are going to be. The next battle, not as huge and climactic, but Snorlax gets to return to fight the Battle Dojo. And in the Battle Dome, I once again say we get to see some recognition because it's fought in front of a huge crowd and they introduce Ash and list off all of his achievements, so that's really fun to see. Plus, it's a double battle and they're more fun to see as well. We get to see Swallow and Corphish especially Corphish, because Corphish didn't get to do as much in Hoenn, so it's nice to see Swellow and Corphish. Not his Hoenn Pokemon haven't been swept completely under the rug. Then you've got the Battle Pike. This one felt a little underrated. Now, we did get Donphan versus Survivor. Basically, this was Donphan's most important battle because it hadn't done as much, and it's about the only thing Donphan will get to do. But then you've got Pikachu versus Milotic. That may sound familiar because, as I said, Pikachu did a cool battle with Milotic again when we had the gym battle against Juan, and a lot of the choreography versus Milotic is very similar. It's weird how they just repeated themselves with Lucy. But we do have the Battle Palace, which has a really cool battle because it's not just on one battlefield, it's in a huge open forest and beach. They're constantly moving around. I love when battlefields are more diverse and not just your standard battlefield. It's one reason I liked Brawly's gym. So yeah, then you've got the Battle Tower. Now everyone knows ANABEL because there was shipping and she's a cool character and Ash didn't even know she was a girl at first. But the battle itself was still really cool. He did bring back his Tauros, which got to do a little bit of stuff. And then Pikachu does this cool thing where it breaks elides. ANABEL's got an Espeon, so yeah, ANABEL, a memorable character. But, of course, we get to the last one, the Battle Pyramid. The Battle Pyramid takes place over multiple episodes. The first time he appears, he doesn't even get to battle it because we have this weird episode where he gets possessed and then Brandon fights the King of Pokelantis in Ash's body and then Brandon just leaves. Now, that's fine. It was cool and it was just set up for Brandon later. My big problem is later on, they act like it was a loss for Ash when it wasn't Ash's fault. Sure, he was an idiot for getting possessed, but the battle itself, Ash didn't lose, it wasn't Ash. But that's beside the point. When he finally does meet up with Brandon again, we get one of my favorite moments. The Fennel Valley arc, where he spends several episodes in Fennel Valley training. It's so good. First off, he has another rematch with Brandon. This time, it's Torkoal versus Registeel. Torkoal actually does hold its weight very well for being a Torkoal who never got to do much, but it still loses. But it was still a very good battle. But the one thing I love about the Fennel Valley, we're in the same location for a handful of episodes. I like when they sit down in the same location for a few episodes. Not a long time, but a few episodes. It gives us a chance to have a slightly bigger and more recurring cast because Scott's there the whole time. Professor Oak shows up. We get some foreshadowing of Sinnoh because he has got a postcard from Sinnoh. We get the episode where Ash's Kanto starters return. We get the return of Drew and Harley, which I'll talk about in a minute. Honestly, everyone loves that episode where Ash's Kanto starters return and he goes off on his own to train them. And then we finally get the battle against Brandon. The victorious battle. And my god, is it a battle. Okay, the first few Pokemon were kind of hit and miss. Like Charizard got defeated very quickly. And Squirtle didn't do much, but that all just shows how strong Pikachu is when it takes out not only his third Pokemon, but a Regice. Pikachu takes out a Regice, and my god, Pikachu versus Regice is so fun to watch. This, my friends, is why Volt Tackle is so fun to watch. There's nothing more satisfying than watching it. It honestly is one of Ash's biggest battles yet, and as they say, Brandon is no joke, and Ash finally wins it. That makes Ash the champion of the Battle Frontier, something very, very few people have ever done in this world as far as we know. Not many other people can claim they've beaten Brandon in the Battle Pyramid, but Ash did it. He could, if he wanted to, have had his own Battle Frontier, but of course Ash is still going to travel. But enough about Ash. He's only half the amazing part. Let's talk about May. May and her contests were kind of hit and miss in Hoenn, but my god are the contests so much better in Kanto. First off, May gets a few new Pokemon. immediately in episode 1, she gets a Squirtle from Professor Oak's lab, and despite being a baby Pokemon, it actually proves to hold its weight in several contests. So, it's not a baby Pokemon which doesn't do much, it actually does have some good stuff. Munchlax is still around, and he didn't do much before because he was caught late in the game, but here, of course, he gets to participate in contests and have quite a few good matches. He has a particularly cool routine in the Grand Festival. Early on, May also gets an Eevee egg. It's fun seeing her have an egg, and then of course we have the episode where the egg hatches, which, once again, it's another weird time travel episode, which the method for time travel comes out of nowhere and they even make fun of it, but at least the timeline makes sense this time, unlike the Baltoy episode where I still don't get the timeline. And then, of course, her very last episode concludes with her Combusken finally evolving into Blaziken for her fight against Ash. And my god, was that a cool fight. It was a great way to finish off May's arc, because after this, May's gonna leave to go to Johto. This is also the last season with May, and honestly, I'm gonna miss her. She's my favorite, and of course with her leaving, Max is leaving too. Max didn't get nearly as many highlight moments, but still, we'll miss them both. But like I said, the Kanto contests are just so much more fun. We get to see much better routines from all of our major characters, plus the host of the Kanto contests is one of my favorite. Lillian is way better than Vivian or whoever the hell the person from Sinnoh is. She's just so much more fun. She interacts with contestants way more. She's just so vibrant and alive and gets the audience going and has a catchphrase, and I don't know why. It's just something about her. She's way better than any other contest host. But speaking of contests, for once, Brock doesn't do nothing. There's actually an episode where he participates in a contest with a bonsai he caught and his Marshtomp, which finally evolved. It was so cool to see him in a contest, his first time, and he actually did a really cool contest. He actually had a cool routine with bonsai, put up a good fight against May with Marshtomp. He didn't win, of course, because May needs a ribbon more. Would have also been a dick move if he did win, but oh well, it was fun to see him in a contest, especially again, because you get cool moments with, like, of course, Brock's here, but Nurse Joy's a judge, but of course, so who's going to pull him away? Of course, it's Lillian. I just love all the interaction. She's just one of the best hosts. But Drew is back, of course, May's major rival, and they kind of, for the most part, they tone him down a little, because they don't have as many they don't face off at all until the Grand Festival, but he's still there, and he's still perpetually ahead of her, and he built up as a good character until we get to the Grand Festival, where we actually start to learn more about his backstory and get some dynamic, and, there's an episode where he lashes out against May, and we have an interesting conversation with Drew and Ash. Ash mentions that in the past, he never really talked to his rival about their differing battle styles, whereas Drew and May do, and he just finds it odd that he would have a rival where he discusses the different battle styles. I wonder if that was intentional foreshadowing, since very soon he's going to have a rival with very different styles who he will definitely have disagreements with. But, of course, we can't talk about Drew without talking about the amazing battle against her, May and Drew, in the Grand Festival. The Grand Festival in Kanto, first off, is way better than it was in Hoenn. And May and Drew's battle, spectacular. They gave it so much effort. It is, honestly, although it didn't last as long, it was essentially, akin to Ash versus Gary, where it's a huge climactic battle and they finally win. May finally beats Drew, and it's an amazing battle that goes both ways. They really ramp it up. It's something you gotta see. But speaking of people you gotta see, Harley's back, and Harley, he was alright before, but now this is Harley at his peak. Harley, first off, is one of the few people I think really improved from the new voices, but Harley has a lot of great moments. He has a lot of cool battles with May, even to feature in one particular contest. He has a lot of really cool moments in the Grand Festival, taunting May, cosplaying as May. Has some really good moments, and it's just fun seeing him work with the crowd and, seeing the commentary he gets from Lillian. And that's the thing, Harley, he teases May, but he's not a bad person per se, because he still gets friendly with other people like Soledad and kind of Drew, and he even starts to get a bit of a rivalry or friendship with Jessie. It's really cool to see their dynamic near the end of the season where they start to have a little respect for each other. It really leads into one of the best episodes in Fennel Valley where when they're leaving, he wants her to go to Johto, but of course she can't because she's going to follow Ash, and he mocks her that Jessie won't do well without him. But the irony is, as we all know, Jessie's going to do really well without him because honestly, Jessie in Kanto had some really good contest battles. Sadly, she never won, but her routines were so well crafted. She never really cheated once, except for the one time where she used Harley's Pokemon, but she didn't cheat too much. It's more Harley was cheating to help her, but even still, she had some really good battles. But speaking of really good Jessie moments, we can't understate the fact that she co-hosted the Grand Festival. I mean, you've got Jessie and my favourite host, Lillian, hosting it together. It's not like, a joke that she's hosting it. No, she legitimately is hosting it and giving running commentary on the secondary stadium for the appeals round. She is in front of a TV screen interviewing contestants. That is, I just love the world building. I love when you see the characters, the characters we're not with, watching TV and seeing our favourite characters on TV. It's so cool. And honestly, Jessie was so good in this season. She had great routines, she had really cool stuff hosting the Grand Festival. Honestly, the Kanto Grand Festival is honestly some of my favourite episodes. I wish I could express just how happy I was watching it. I was so giddy and happy just watching it. I don't usually get that excited. Sure, there's a lot of good episodes, but my goodness, I wish I could explain it. I was just so happy watching the Grand Festival. Soledad's a great character. They give her more character than Robert, and yes, she's the one to win, but she helps us explore the dynamic between Drew and May, and has some good stuff with Harley. Jessie's great hosting. It's just, there's so much good stuff going on. And speaking of the other Team Rocket members, James wasn't left to the wayside. First off, Chimecho left very early. Like I said in Hoenn, Chimecho didn't get to do much, and it's not as memorable because it's gone very quickly. But in the same episode he loses Chimecho, we get Mime Jr., who, a Pokemon he keeps with him a lot. He's going to keep Mime Jr. all through Battle Frontier, and through the entirety of Sinnoh, making it one of the most well-known and longest-lasting Pokemon there is. Honestly, it's almost as big as Wobbuffet until it leaves. He even gets to have a legitimate victory because we have a favourite episode of mine where they enter something called Pokemon Orienteering, where it's sort of like a little scavenger hunt on an island with you and one Pokemon, and it's really fun because you get to see stuff like May and her Eevee, you get to see Max running off with his Munchlax, and that led to some fun moments. But all in all, because the others are getting caught up with Jessie and Meowth cheating, James wins legitimately. It's no joke, he just wins, and it's so fun to see one of them actually win. I always love when James or Jessie win something legitimately. It's like when I praised James in the Poke Ringer competition, only this time he won. Sure, it's just a little scavenger hunt, but it's fun. It's a fun little episode, which I guess it's kind of a filler episode, but it was a fun one to watch, that's for sure. Another cool upgrade is only for this season only does Team Rocket have a new and different motto. After 8 seasons, they've finally changed up the motto, and I kind of like it. I'm going to miss it because, yeah, it's only in for 1 season. We also get an episode where Butch and Cassidy come back, which it's about the only time they're seen in the Gen 3 anime, so that was nice. Speaking of which, in the first handful of episodes, Misty did show up. She showed up at the lab, so she was there for a few episodes because she followed them around until they had to go to the Battle Factory, but at least she followed them until they got to Cerulean City, and once again, it led to nice moments seeing her with Max, and it's just nice to see them all as a team. It's something you don't get much. Another cool aspect is throughout Battle Frontier season, you have a few episodes where we meet a Pokemon Ranger. Obviously, it's used to promote the game Pokemon Ranger, but starting from here and a few episodes in Sinnoh as well, we get Pokemon Ranger episodes, and they're really fun. First off, you get to have legendaries, because there's one with Celebi, and there's a two-parter with Deoxys. Again, if they're not doing in a major episode, they're filling it with really cool stuff like this. Celebi episode was alright. The Deoxys one was more climactic because it got cool moments with Meowth and Max. This was about the only major episode for Max in Battle Frontier, except maybe that cool bit in Pokemon Orienteering, but still, I enjoyed both the Pokemon Ranger episodes, and I know some people may call it blatant advertising, but what are you supposed to do? It's Pokemon. The whole thing's an advertisement. But, okay. We can't talk about Battle Frontier without talking about the one big elephant in the room. At the end of Season 8, remember, Battle Frontier takes place at the very end of Season 8 and all of Season 9. When Season 8 ends, as everyone knows, 4Kids loses the right to dubbing. And with that means almost every voice you know is no longer the voice you know. Almost every character, except for a few, get brand new voices, and obviously, there's plenty of people out there who have a preference for one voice or another. Some people are mad that it's no longer the 4Kids voices. Some people even stopped watching the show because of the voices, even though, hey, guess what? The new voices have been doing it longer now. But anyway, I don't really have a preference. I love the old voices. I'm fine with the new voices too. Both are great, and after a couple episodes, I got used to it. Obviously, for a couple of episodes, it was a little jarring suddenly going to new voices, but then I got used to it, and it's like, oh, right, I remember these voices, because obviously I've seen stuff before, so it's just, hey, it's Ash's new voice. Plus, I kind of like the soundtrack upgrade. Don't worry, they've still got your favourite songs, like the remix of game music, but the more background music has been improved when they switched out of 4Kids. So, yeah, I kind of don't mind it. There is a slight downside in the fact that because obviously the voices are still new, for about the first third of Battle Frontier, some of the voices are a little shaky, but they grow into it to the voices you know. And finally, the biggest part of this is it blends everything. Obviously, you've got a lot of Hoenn stuff. Ash, we're in Kanto, so we get to see Kanto stuff, and Ash brings back his Kanto Pokemon, so we blend that. But also, we're blending new stuff. We've seen a lot of Sinnoh Pokemon at this point. Munchlax, Bonsai, Mime Jr. We have an episode with a Charter and an episode with a Weavile. Honestly, there's a lot of foreshadowing of Sinnoh. And then, of course, near the end of it, we get a postcard from Gary who's in Sinnoh. We start talking about Sinnoh. Gary's got an Electivire, and Gary finally shows up in the final episode, making his first appearance in ages. Ash's Apom is going to follow him to Sinnoh. And I know that I say this a lot, but the bridge from Battle Frontier to Sinnoh is one of the most spectacular, well-crafted bridges ever. Battle Frontier feels like the perfect blending of Hoenn to Sinnoh. It works so well. Sure, the others have had a nice bridge, but they felt like they came out of nowhere. Sinnoh, although the mention of Sinnoh didn't happen immediately, there's been Sinnoh Pokemon dropped here and there, and that just makes it so much better. Honestly, I just loved that bridge. Some of it is just me talking out of nostalgia, because Battle Frontier was, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. There was so much cool things. Plus, I got excited because, Sinnoh was coming up, and I was excited because I hadn't played the Sinnoh games yet, so every time I saw a Sinnoh Pokemon, it just got me so excited. I wanted more and more, and I was always excited that Ash was finally going to go to Sinnoh. But obviously we'll talk about that soon. But honestly, yeah, if I haven't praised it enough, I can't think of any negative points about Battle Frontier. Like I said, to anyone who thinks this, people have been saying that Hoenn and Battle Frontier are full of filler, but it's not. First off, in Hoenn, I said there's barely any filler. The gaps between each episode with filler are not that big. But in Battle Frontier, there is rarely a time where you go 1 or 2 episodes with a filler episode. Half the time there's no room for filler. Occasionally you get 1 or 2, and even I said some of them are debatable, like they might be considered filler, like the Ranger episodes or Pokemon Orienteering, but they're such good episodes that I forget they're filler. And then a few episodes which are filler, it's like, okay, 1 filler episode, then we're off to an exciting thing again. So we rarely rarely have a filler episode. There is no room for filler. It just blew my mind. There's so few filler. It's incredible. If you want a season with no filler, go watch Battle Frontier. It's incredible. I love it. There's so many good battles for Ash. There's so many good highlights for May. Her contests have such cool moments with rivals. Ash has amazing battles and it shows him at the best. Honestly, nothing is put to waste. No, there's been almost no negative points I can think of. Honestly, Battle Frontier, you will always be my favorite moments in the anime. You were beautiful to watch. If I can't express this enough, when I got to the Grand Festival and the Fennel Valley, I was absolutely giddy with excitement and happiness. It's like, honestly, I was just watching this saying, oh, this is such a good day now. It just made my day just watching these episodes and getting up to them. You know, it's no fun if you just put an episode on, but when you're building up to it and you finally get to an episode you know you love, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe, I don't know what it is, but Fennel Valley Arc and the Grand Festival, oh, I just love them so much. But enough about me praising Battle Frontier for 7 years. Like I said, the bridge to Sinnoh is here. Next time I will review Sinnoh. Battle Frontier may have been quick and easy to review. Sinnoh, however, is 4 seasons, the longest arc I will have reviewed yet. And oh boy, it's a big one and I have mixed feelings from what I can remember. Is it as full of filler as I remember? I know there's some good parts too, but we'll just have to wait and see when I rewatch it and review it eventually. But anyway, I will see you next time for when I review filler, I will see you next time for when I review Sinnoh, not filler. I'll see you next time, guys.